Well, hello everyone. My name is James Williams, Director of Programs with the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. And if this is the first time you've ever viewed a MEF webinar, a particularly warm welcome to you. Now, all our webinars are recorded, so if you've got colleagues, anybody who cannot actually view this session live right now, fear not. It's going to be recorded and you'll be able to view this live online very, very soon. And indeed, associated with that will be a blog post covering the topics we're going to be talking about right now with my guests. But the topic of the day today is direct carrier billing, which is a very, very important part of the mobile payments sector. Myself within MEF as Director of Programs, I manage much of what we call the enterprise communications arm. So that's business messaging mostly. Mobile payment side of things, predominantly direct carrier billing. And we have members from that group right here, and I'll come to them very soon to let them introduce themselves. And also recently launched content and advertising, which also brings many of the members from the DCB group into play, into that brand new MEF group. I had to get a plug in for that because it's new. It's got a lot of interest. It's a very broad area. And we'll be doing a lot of stuff in that direction as well. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. I'll start off for me in the top left corner. That would be Louise Ford. Louise, welcome. Hi.
Hello, thanks for having me. My name's Louise. I'm the Managing Director at Impello, and we provide market monitoring and cybersecurity solutions to the mobile payments industry.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Go to you, Ansel.
Hi, thank you, James, and welcome to all our viewers. I'm Ansel from SAM Media. SAM Media provides digital content ranging from entertainment to education, sports, AR and VR streaming, to millions of subscribers in more than 42 markets globally. I'm the Business Development Director for the African region.
Fantastic. And you're in the Netherlands. It just shows how international.
I'm in Amsterdam.
Yes, Louise is in the UK and Ansel is from South Africa, but in the Netherlands, managing Africa. Let's go all the way across the Atlantic to Mr. John Bruner. John, hi. Great that you could join us.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, hi, I'm John Bruner. I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. Our company is Aegis Mobile, of which I'm the CEO, and we started 15 years ago as a compliance company, providing vetting and verification of brands, onboarding and verification of programs before launch, market monitoring, transaction analytics, whole life cycle of compliance services for premium SMS, direct carrier billing, messaging, business to consumer messaging, IoT programs. Anyway, broad set of channels across the carrier industry.
That's for sure. John, great that you could join us. And let's now go to, I think, Spain, where Ignacio is. Hi.
Yeah, to Spain, to Madrid. Well, this is Ignacio, the payment processes and regulation, the director at the Digital Virgo. And Digital Virgo is one of the leading companies into the direct carrier billing ecosystem. And basically the mission of the group is boosting the mobile payment.
Fantastic. And as regulation and payment process director, I know you've got some great points to make, particularly on the regulation side. So looking forward to that coming up a bit later. And moving on then is Ici c'est Paris. We've got Mr. David Lockvey from Paris.
Thank you, James. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you. So I'm David. I'm the CEO and founder of Evina. Evina is a cybersecurity company, and we work very hard to build the best technology possible to protect the mobile payment of the mobile network operators.
Fantastic. Great you could join us. And we're coming from the UK as well. We've got Peter Garside. Peter, great that you could be with us as well. Hi.
Hi, yeah. My name is Peter Garside. I'm head of charge to bill and digital identity for BT. I've been with BT for 5 years, and yeah, really looking forward to this webinar.
Fantastic. BT, of course, being British Telecom over here in the UK, a rather large operator. So no, great. Now, here at MEF, we're all about interaction, sharing insights, and providing impact across the ecosystem. And we don't like to assume anything. So for the purposes of all the viewers, let's not assume that they actually know what DCB is. So Peter, can you just start us off by explaining what DCB actually is and who it has the potential to impact ultimately?
Yeah, so DCB is actually called direct carrier billing. People call it different names. Some people call it direct charge or direct billing. It does have a few different names, but essentially what it is it gives customers the ability to buy, in the UK at least, digital content and put the price of that digital content, put the cost of that digital content onto their mobile phone bill. So it's a really good way customers can purchase things without having to use credit card, without having to use any cards, without having to use PayPal. They can just put the cost onto their mobile phone bill. So an example would be in the UK, Spotify. So if you want to join Spotify monthly music subscription, you can select the payment method, charge to bill, and you can add that cost, $9.99 in the UK, to your mobile phone bill. And it's a very quick, secure payment method. You know, it's a very successful payment method. We've had, you know, some of the biggest companies in the world have been using direct carrier billing. For example, Google on the Play Store, Apple on the App Store, Microsoft on their store, Sony. So, you know, the biggest companies in the world are using it today, but it's got more potential, and I'm looking forward to new merchants discovering it and using it.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. So thank you for explaining and setting the scene. Now, over to what MEF has been doing in terms of research. So every year, the Mobile Ecosystem Forum comes out with about 20 reports covering a whole variety of different areas. And of course, MEF wouldn't be MEF without an actual mobile payments related report. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share my screen. So this is the mobile payments report from 2021. Now, the methodology MEF uses for many of the reports, in fact, most of the reports, is actually going out to 6,500 smartphone users globally. So that's 650 real people like yourselves watching who've got a smartphone, and they're actually subcategorized as those who are fairly light or regular users or ultra heavy users of their devices across 10 different countries. And these real subscribers are asked a battery of questions covering a variety of different areas. And an important area is mobile payments. So what I've done here is the actual report is 80 pages or something. And I am not a subscriber of Death by Slides in any way, shape or form. But what I just want to show you here is that there is a whole huge headroom growth in the area of mobile payments, in particular, this charge to bill direct carrier billing. And you can see here the majority of people surveyed did not actually use direct carrier billing. So there is, looking here, a third of the respondents in various countries actually did, from the looks of it here. So there's plenty of headroom for growth. Now, the payments usage using DCB mobile billing, it varies with age, but as you can see here, the pink is the pink here, which where no one actually used the DCB, but you can see also that usage of it falls with age. So first of all, we know there's a growth opportunity. Secondly, there's an age issue here. So what can we do to bring older people around? Because in many countries, particularly developed countries, the older population may have some disposable income, for example. So that's a particularly good area to target as well. Higher income groups pay for more services using DCB. That was a key finding of our research. And the key drivers for the usage of mobile payments, the number one is obviously convenience and also speed. And we're going to be talking about this on the webinar because speed is absolutely crucial. If you ask any customer for any goods or services around the world, what the number one most important thing to them is, and the answer will be their time. So anything that increases the actual speed of using a channel and lengthen the process means people are possibly going to give up on it. So of course we want things to be secure, but that does not have to come at the expense of the user experience. So we'll be covering that during this webinar. Convenience is more important to iOS users than Android, marginally. You can see roughly it's essentially the same, but there's a marginal difference. There's definitely room for improvement in the perception of mobile payment security. And again, I use this word, perception, because reality varies from country to country. And we've got members of our panel speakers today who spend their lives, and their companies spend their lives, protecting the ecosystem from fraud. And of the 10 countries surveyed, it's China leading the way in terms of payments via mobile billing. And that's principally because bundled payments are especially well used in that country. So is that a lesson for other places in the world? Well, we're going to find out today. If I come out of that, I have the pleasure of moderating the actual direct carrier billing or growth working group within MEF. And I thought a great way of bringing in all the participants here would be to showcase the great work that the group has done. So I'm just going to show you some things here very quickly. Move along here. Sorry, it's done it again. I chose the title page and it came in on the fourth slide. So this is it, the Direct Carrier Billing for Growth Working Group. Midway through the year, as actually, I think if memory serves me correctly, it was last August, we rebranded Direct Carrier Billing Group to Direct Carrier Billing for Growth to better reflect what the group is all about. And indeed, this Monday, the group met. Many of the speakers here today were with me on our meeting a couple of days ago, and we made the mission even simpler for all of you to understand, to promote the adoption of DCB as a trusted payment method, period. That is the mission of the DCB group. That is the mission of MEF as a whole. Now, a major achievement, I've been with MEF just over a year, but before I arrived, or soon before I arrived, so about 15, 16 months ago, I think, that group came out with a fantastic document here, white paper, all about combating fraud in mobile content. And many of the members were involved. And it's fair that the members get their moment in the spotlight. And just to show what's going on, first of all, we're going to be talking about MCP Insight. Now, the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer of MCP Insight, is Brian Pettit. Brian was instrumental in putting together that important combating fraud document, but unfortunately Brian is no longer with us. He passed away towards the end of last year and is very, very much missed, but his contribution, of course the ongoing contribution of MCP Insight, is very, very much appreciated. We've had a whole series of multimedia types of content created by members. So in format of videos, these have been shared far and wide. MEF website, members' websites, social media. So for example, here we've got MCP, we've got Avina and Ooredoo, mobile operator group in action. And then we've got Avina and Telecoming, so another company from Spain there involved. Sam Media and Zell here working together with David's company, Avina, on a fantastic video as well. And it's not just about video, some fantastic written productions too, a great one from Upstream and a lovely one from John and his team at Aegis Mobile. So that's what the actual direct carrier billing group have been up to. But as I mentioned, it's all about growing DCB. Now, the only person here today who actually wasn't a part of the DCB Growth Working Group is Louise from Impello, because Impello only recently joined MEF. So it's great, first of all, to have Impello as part of MEF, and we hope to see many more companies from the sector joining. But Louise, if you'd like to just explain what your thoughts on 2021 and anything else you may have to say, go for it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we're delighted to be a part of the group. And I joined Impello in October. So this is a great new initiative for me to get involved with. So I've been involved in the mobile payments industry for 20 years now. So I've seen a lot of change over that period. All the way from the launch of smartphones to, you know, unlimited data plans, launch of carrier billing. And I guess really, you know, these days it's a mobile first world. Mobile commerce has actually overtaken online commerce. So my personal passion is to see carrier billing be a competitive and fit for purpose payment model. Particularly versus the other payment methods, other mobile payment methods out there, and meet the expectations of all of the consumers and merchants and carriers that sit in the ecosystem. And I firmly believe that if we can meet those expectations, be fit for purpose and competitive, then the growth will come. I guess, you know, from an Impello perspective, where we sit in that equation is an essential prerequisite for being fit for purpose, competitive and meeting expectations is for carrier billing to be safe, secure and trusted by consumers. So the types of services that we provide in terms of market monitoring and cybersecurity are really to provide a framework and a platform for that safe and secure ecosystem and develop the trust for consumers. So that's why I joined Impello. I'm passionate about that after 20 years in the carrier billing space. So having not been a part of the group last year, I thought I'd just share some insights of what we saw at Impello last year. I'm just going to pop up my screen. So let me do that now.
Yeah, I can see it, fine.
We'll go to slideshow. Here we go. So in terms of our market monitoring, we performed 650,000 tests in 2021 across all of the markets we work in. And overall, we saw a 90% compliance rate globally. So that means that the advertising of services using carrier billing as a payment mechanism were 90% compliant. That varied from region to region, with Europe leading the way and being the most compliant, and the Middle East being the least compliant. And the types of issues that we encountered last year were misleading flows and content locking, where essentially consumers were enticed into purchasing services via kind of social engineering and misleading offers. So that accounted for about 50% of the issues that we encountered last year. We kind of see that different markets are in different cycles at different times. So we see different issues coming and going in different markets. Brand passing off, where adverts are faking different brands, are particularly an issue in the Middle East. That's something that we've seen that's new. And we've also seen new threats on compliance from social influencer marketing. And I don't think that is something that's specific to this industry. I think we've all seen reports about social influencing marketing across a range of different industries. And a recent report from a company in that space, Hive Auditor, suggested that up to 55% of accounts in social media spaces were actually indulging in some kind of fake trickery and promotion of services. So quite a lot. In terms of the types of service mixes we saw, video streaming, gaming and mixed content were the predominant services that we saw, over 50%, well over 50%. I guess some of the other services, you know, for example, music and dating, etc., may be underrepresented in the VAS market. 55% of all merchants that we saw in market provided all three of those services. Broadly, most of the services have a similar profile in terms of their compliance. So video streaming was the most compliant, mixed content coming in at 87%. And you'll see on this that most of what we saw was actually advertised on the web and had quite a high compliance rate. But we also did testing on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We see in-app messaging and push notifications and other instant messaging channels being used as a promotion tool for carrier billing, build services. And TikTok is really starting to pick up as well. And the main compliance issues we actually see are on social media, with Facebook being 80% non-compliant. So web's broadly compliant, but social media is a space to watch. Just in terms of our cybersecurity solution, in the last year, we've checked over 400 million page visits, 100 million clicks, and we've blocked 60 million clicks. And typically the split of that is 40% in-app and 60% browser. We tend to find that the click rates vary significantly from country to country, as do the traffic sources. And 90% of the traffic that we block is coming from known blacklisted apps. And I guess to kind of put that into perspective as well, in countries where we don't have our cybersecurity solution running, we've intercepted almost 1,400 auto subscriptions. So that's where we do a test and the user's been subscribed without their knowledge because they have some kind of malware on their phone. So that's one to watch, and it kind of highlights the need, I think, for all carriers to consider putting appropriate security and protection on their payment pages to prevent that auto sub problem. Just in terms of our predictions that we've put together for 2022, that's going to be coming out in our annual report, which will be published tomorrow, I think. Just on the compliance side, you know, we'll be playing global whack-a-mole on misleading flows and content locking. Just really, you know, that type of compliance monitoring needs a consistent and ongoing focus, and, you know, full participation from all of the parties involved for effective takedown programs, and keeping an eye out on the social influencer marketing. Continued persistence of auto subscriptions highlights the need for anti-fraud measures. We don't see any evidence at the moment that PIN flows are actually reducing the incidence of auto subscriptions. We still see that in markets with PIN flows. And new threats that we're calling out for next year are twofold. Really, whether we're going to see new threats come in from the M2M and IoT ecosystems that are going to create new attack vectors. So, you know, if I've got my washing machine connected to my mobile phone, you know, is a fraudster going to hack my washing machine to send build messages from my phone, or vice versa? And there's actually a new act been put in place by the UK government that kind of recognises that potential threats coming from the IoT ecosystems and the devices that are connected in the space. So that's
Louise,
one to watch.
Yeah. Now, Louise, just talking about IoT, I was just 2 hours ago, or 1.5 hours ago, we actually had our IoT working group, and we're talking about exactly that. Because of the security and the threat side of things, there's possibly, it seems weird situation, but because of the embedded technology within things like fridges and freezers, and because of the regulation now which is coming in the IoT space, which says that if there's a breach, you're going to be fined massively here in the UK, people are thinking, oh, hang on a second, if I've got a fridge and IoT, and how long am I going to be able to apply patches remotely for? So that's
exactly.
No one thought of that, and this all links into so much of what the members of this group are doing. So this whole area of
I really add,
yeah, go on,
dear James.
please.
I really had to add that a few months ago, we prevented some Samsung fridges to subscribe to some mobile payment service. It was a lot of fun in the team.
There you go. The predictions are coming true already. Yeah, two things. M2M SIMs that actually sit in remote devices, and then the IoT environment where the device is actually connected to your phone. So I think those are spaces to watch, and I think the latest act that's gone through on the IoT from the UK government is maybe one of the first to recognise that's potentially a new attack vector. So that's really it from us. That's our predictions. That's what we've seen in market during 2021, and we're really excited to be playing a part in the growth agenda for DCB in 2022.
Fantastic. Louise, thank you very much. Now, the topic of pin flow was mentioned, and that links directly into what I was talking about, how for any channel or any payment mechanism to be successful, you've got to have little friction as possible. Ansel, could you explain to the viewers what pin flow is and how it has the potential to possibly slow things down, disrupt the customer experience, and really impact the use of DCB?
Sure, of course. So the typical journey that a consumer looking to purchase or sign up to a subscription service via their mobile phone would follow would be one where there'd be some initial invitation for them to interact, be that a banner, be that an advertisement like you just saw Louise referring to, seen on TikTok or wherever. And it differs from market to market, but the key things we would always see in that journey is, one, the user authenticating themselves as being the actual person managing that phone. So that could either be by header enrichment or entering the actual mobile number, the MSISDN. And the second would be another clear consent to complete this purchase or to enter the subscription. Now, in markets where we don't use pin flow, so the opposite of having a pin flow would be one where a consumer would have their mobile number already made available to the merchant or to the website on which they're trying to sign up by header enrichment. And a seamless sort of process would ensue where the consumer would first be informed, this is what you're about to sign up to, click yes to confirm, go to either on a carrier hosted payment confirmation where the carrier then in return as a second level of security would go, are you sure you want to complete this purchase? You click, you do, and you're done. In the age of instant gratification, if I want to watch a video right now, or if I want the Champions League final is being played and I want to know right now what the score is, you know, I want these things to happen fast. Now, like Louise rightfully pointed out, what happens in some markets where there is an instance of fraud or potential fraud taking place in the mobile subscription sign-up journey, we often see pin flows being introduced. And what that means is there's a belief or there's a hope, rightfully so, that introducing another layer where an actual pin, like 12345 or a code or whatever, is first sent to that user, which that consumer then needs to re-enter on the website. So you're firstly breaking off of the channel which you were on, because you were sitting on a website where you're hoping to purchase something, now having to leave into your SMS inbox to find this pin that has been sent to you. In some instances, you have to tell this website where they have to send this pin to. So you have to enter your mobile number first. I keep wanting to say MSISDN and then I sure everyone watching knows. Anyway, you'll have to enter your MSISD first. After that, you'll receive the PIN. So there's a lot of back and forth in terms of you changing where you are, changing what you're doing, then re-entering that PIN. The more in general, so for us as a content provider, it's all about conversion, and it's all about making sure that if you, in that first invitation to transact, so that first, your banner or your ad saying, look at this, this is awesome. Don't you want to be watching this? Don't you want to be playing this awesome new game? You know, in that first invitation, if you've hooked someone there, then it's a very costly pity if you lose that potential subscriber or that potential consumer because of the friction that they're experiencing in their sign-up process. And that's also why PIN flows are not ideal. And secondly, as Louise rightfully pointed out, and I'm sure David can speak to as well, they're not foolproof either, and they're not necessarily more secure.
Okay, that's clear. Now,
and if I may add something to that, I mean, because I mean the reality is that it's very linked to regulation in the sense of remember that direct carrier billing was born almost 20 years ago, basically as an except in Europe, firstly as an exception to the payment regulation, which was meaning that the telco was exempted to be authorized to perform that sort of services, because it was supposed or it was intended that it was for micropayments for contents to be enjoyed by the end user with the telco. So the good thing or the beauty thing that has happened during these 20 years is that the entire ecosystem, the entire stakeholders have understood that this can be evolved not only in terms of security, in terms of how we secure that the end user understand that this is a real valid alternative payment of method, but as well how we boost that for using for paying another sort of services. Okay, because as Peter was saying at the very beginning, we were talking only about digital goods. Now with the PSD2, that the Payment Service Directive 2 in Europe, that I can tell you that it has been copy-pasted in some territories in North Africa and in Latin, they are starting to understand how do they do the same. They basically have understood that they can evolve that regulation by means of opening the verticals that can be addressed with the direct carrier billing, and opening the scope to understand if we can go in the near future for the physical goods. Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I was about to raise that topic of physical goods, but you beat me to it. But we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. John, I'd like to bring you in from the US, because your company, hopefully you're still there, your company looks after so much in North America. So could you just give us a flavor of what's going on in North America with regards to your side of the pond, what's going on, any headwinds you see, anything with pin flow, any light you can shed and give the viewer an idea of what it's like to operate now within your territories?
Hi, James. Thank you. So in North America, it's been very interesting with direct carrier billing. It really emerged with the collapse of premium SMS in the US market. And it's predominantly for the carriers been purchasing of games and apps for Google Play and Microsoft Play Store. But what's interesting is that, in my opinion, the carriers really haven't leveraged the efficiency, the safety, the trust of using direct carrier as much as they could. So we're not seeing it as a tremendous growth market right now. It certainly is not the size of what premium SMS was in the US industry, because it was multi-billion-dollar industry here for years. But you know, there are things that make direct carrier billing so much more usable in so many different ways. You know, one is the carriers have the ability to control, you know, what you can buy and how much you can buy, for example. So, you know, family plans where you've got multiple phones, the ability to allocate a budget to my son, which I don't have a son, I have daughters, but to buy games with a monthly budget. And I know what games are being bought. I know when they're being bought. it's a lot better than just handing off the credit card and letting them go out and do things. And so the ability to set up the brand experience, if you will, with the control mechanisms that the carriers have in place to work with their customers, who, by the way, they've already underwritten from a financial perspective, is a tremendous advantage. The other thing about direct carrier billing is you see massive, use and growth in unbanked, countries. And the U.S. is a very banked country, but we do have a number of unbanked, tens of millions of unbanked, that honestly could be put on a path to banked by working with their carriers in the credit underwriting of carrier, business, if you will, for your account, but also the purchasing power that they grant you. You could convert to a branded credit card, a carrier branded credit card once they've proven their worthiness. And, so to me, there are many opportunities within direct carrier billing, not really being leveraged as much as I'd love to see in the U.S. market, in North American market.
Yeah, thanks. Now, I think you're going to work out, all the viewers are going to work out who I'm going to go to next. First of all, is the person who started, but I haven't gone back to. And secondly, you mentioned the word carrier a few times, and he's the only representative from a carrier, and that's Peter Garside. Peter, what would you say to what John has said?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is, masses of opportunity, obviously, in the carrier billing space. I think there is growth. I think there is an opportunity to kind of go outside of the traditional space of just the app stores for growth. I think, in the UK, for example, we're looking at transport. So is transport, a mechanism where we can get customers to use carrier billing? They could be unbanked people. They could be people who don't have a credit card and can't pay for a bus journey because they don't have a credit card. In the UK, people want to get rid of cash. And so if you get rid of cash, you still need to be inclusive. So everyone's got a mobile phone, so you can keep that inclusive umbrella over those people and protect them and say, yeah, you can still go on the bus because you can use your mobile phone to transact with your bus ticket. So I think there are those opportunities out there. And I think we as an industry, as an ecosystem, need to kind of release those together. It's something that we at BT are very keen to do. We've invested in carrier billing. We've got, very modern architecture and infrastructure to support it, not just the technology, but also the customer care angle. And our kind of mission is to provide customers with a fantastic billing experience. Just kind of picking up on the PIN discussion that was held earlier, I think that what's important to realize is that direct carrier billing is so good that customers don't even realize how good it is. And what I mean by that is you really need to show them, this is what you're doing, this is the payment, this is going to go onto your mobile phone bill. You need to do that educational piece as well, because for some people it's like magic, direct carrier billing. So we just need to be mindful of that, and so I think there's an educational piece to play, an educational bit to focus on as well. But yeah, no, loads of opportunity. I'm really excited about the coming months and years on this.
Perfect. Well, I couldn't agree more about the educational opportunity, and that's a huge part of what you members do across MEF in terms of educating the wider ecosystem. But just looking at different countries, direct carrier billing is successful. In certain countries, it's not so successful in others for a variety of reasons. We've got regulation, we've got so many different reasons. But what about cooperation between companies, between mobile operators, between the whole ecosystem, coming up with a really, really easy, like in Germany, I think it's Zahl einfach das Handy, basically pay easily with your mobile, where people have clubbed together, they've got that phrase, and DCB seems to be moving quite nicely in Germany. Of course, there's plenty of headroom for growth. Is there enough cooperation, David, in your perspective, from the industry in various countries around DCB, or is it still too fragmented, what you're seeing?
It depends so much. It depends so much. It depends from country to country, and in a way that we would not imagine. For example, if we take France, in France, it's very well known that the carriers hate themselves. They are always fighting against each other in a very nasty way. Though, in carrier billing, they managed to sit together in a professional organization, association, which is called the AFMM, and they managed to define their code of conduct. They managed to work together to define what are the good technology that they want to use. And they work very well together, while it's well known in France that people in Bouygues Telecom don't like people in Orange, and they are fighting each other every time. So this is very strange. And in Middle East, I have been able to see, and I don't want to stigmatize anyone, but I have been able to see some carriers who were really reluctant to discuss with other ones, and they were even about, okay, I'm working, this carrier has solved a lot of issues and is doing well on carrier billing. I don't want to follow his path. I want to do something else, even if it works, but just for the sake of not doing the same. It means a lot. It means we have a lot of things to do together, to educate, to bring people together in meeting rooms so that they can see that they are talking to another human person that is facing the same issues that they are. And that what is really interesting in carrier billing is that you're not competing against the other carrier. It's one of the business unit that could really leverage a lot cooperation. But it's not natural in some countries. And that's also why I would say a lot of carriers today have not understood what to do with their carrier billing, and they are struggling alone. Here at the MEF working group, I think we did an extraordinary job during the last 2-3 years. And a lot of carriers have joined the initiative. If you feel overwhelmed, if you need advice, if you want to know what the others are doing, you are more than welcome. And we would learn from your use case, and technology companies like mine, or MPLO, or Aegis, or MCP, who is not there today, will learn from the use case and the needs of the carriers, the merchants, the aggregators, and will be able to adapt their product to their exact needs. And you will learn also what are the best practices. You will be able to exchange, and you will be able to make the working group working on specific issues and on your real life issues.
David,
so
I think really... Yeah, sorry about interrupting, because we've got time to think of here. Believe it or not, we're nearly 3/4 of the way through our time together already. But you touched on a good point about the RF2M, the AF2M, MM in France. So they've done some great work on the RCS side of things as well. Indeed, we had a presentation at MEF with that organization and some members from there about the great work being done. So there's clearly a role to play for neutral organizations out there to help facilitate discussions between carriers and others. That's clear. Now, everything so far, Ignacio, you spoilt what I was about to ask by mentioning physical goods, because we had none of us until that point had actually mentioned that topic. Because if you could just explain the marketing, for example, in Japan, and Amazon, and what people can do, and the fact it's not limited to just €200 a month, is it, out there, and what you can do with direct carrier billing. Perhaps that is the ultimate expression of what a country allows with the DCB. If you can explain that and the whole area around physical goods, that would be appreciated.
Sure. Just trying to answer very quickly to your question. Japan is a super specific country, and why is that? Basically, because from the very beginning, the ecosystem created in Japan means that the telco is the one selling the product directly to the end user. Okay, so by the book, let me say, according to the law, you can make this in every country of the world, because basically it's the telco the one that is selling the product to the end user. And that's why there's no limits, and that's why the telco is not payment regulated, let's call it, okay? And the point in Japan is what it was from the very beginning accepted by the end user as this new method of payment made that this direct carrier billing was boosted in there, and that's why they are so successful on that. Okay, this is and that's why it's not only for content, but as well is as well used for physical goods. Okay, and this is basically the challenge, or the, as you were saying, the goal that we should have, no? And that's why I think it's super interesting what David was saying regarding the collaboration. But not only with the telcos. I mean, what I really think is that this industry needs to be in a position of promoting direct carrier billing as a super important alternative payment method. One of the other challenges that we have is that we really need to go to global merchants, because at the end of the day, if a merchant is only using direct carrier billing in one specific country and in one specific telco, what is going to happen is that this is not going to be longer used. And then the challenge for everyone is just trying to make an ecosystem where a big merchant understand that they can exploit their services through direct carrier billing in all the countries in the world. Okay. And this is basically where we are. If you pay attention to just talking about regulation, where we were 15 years ago and where we are as of today, particularly in Europe, we see that, as Peter was saying at the very beginning, we are starting to go to new verticals, as it happens with ticketing, it happens with the transport, it happens with the vending machines. We are starting to see that we can evolve the direct carrier billing not only for entertainment services, for content services, but for other sort of services. I understand that the telcos are still in this phase of trying, of a trial phase, understanding if this is a good method of payment. But the numbers are there. The numbers says that we are going to double the figures to 2025 as compared to 2021, and then what is going to be necessary both for the telcos and for all the stakeholders is that we are no longer in an exemption to the law. As I was saying at the very beginning, we are really becoming in a real method of payment, and therefore regulated, and therefore we really need that all the stakeholders are granted with the correspondent authorizations, licenses, and so on for perform that sort of services. Okay, and this is what the Digital Virgo understands right now, and this is why we are currently authorized with a payment institution in several countries in Europe, just basically to boost the direct carrier billing with the telcos and letting them know that we are here to help in developing that method of payment.
Thank you, Ignacio. Let's bring in Ansel, looking at Africa, because in many ways, Africa's been leading the way with mobile money. It led the way with mobile money. We know the well-worn example of M-Pesa in Kenya, but there's so many other solutions that have come into the market. Has that extended onto the DCB side of things? What's going on in Africa right now?
That's what we're working very hard to achieve, James, because whilst, like you say, a well-known example of M-Pesa and MTN's mobile money and all the others being well-established payment methods, it's actually the other way around, because in Europe, we're saying we want DCB to become a payment method for physical goods. Mobile money has always been a payment method for physical goods in the African markets, and not necessarily for digital goods. And that's where we're working, and that's where we're trying to. A big step forward was in 2018, 2019, when the App Store and the Play Store started opening up M-Pesa as payment methods in these app stores. And what we're increasingly doing in these markets is offering DCB alongside mobile wallets as a payment method for our services and our goods and our products. Of course, one thing we can't not bring up when talking about DCB is the margins. So of course that makes it difficult to offer your consumer two payment methods for the ease of their choosing, but you then as the merchant taking a much larger cut or the carrier taking a much larger cut of the margin on the one payment method than the other, and that's one thing that would need to be addressed. But I think the case is clear for carrier billing, and I think one thing I just wanted to add that I'm not sure has come up during this call until here is, interestingly, we showed one of the problems that they're still seeing is passing off, right? Now, I'm curious, why would a brand pass off? It would mean that they're using another brand's likeness to try and promote it as if it's their own, right? And you typically only do that if your own content is not particularly well enough, or your own product that you're selling is not particularly well enough that it can stand on its own two legs. And that's why you want to ride on this other brand, and you could dot from side to side. But that's what we've seen it in the past. And historically, that's only been a problem where the content or the actual product being sold needed to ride on another brand's back, because in its own right, either there was not enough invested in marketing it in a proper way so that you don't have to resort to that methods. And I think that's going to be the crucial thing if we want to drive this DCB for growth agenda and narrative, is it needs to be a combination of three things. It needs to be actual proper products that are marketed in a proper way, there's proper investment in marketing so that advertisers don't have to resort to things like passing off that comes with all this compliance issues and complaints and whatever. But there also needs to be a solid regulatory framework in which all of this can occur. And instances of self-regulation like South Africa's WASPA or like the Netherlands' Stichting, where they actually bring together carriers, merchants, gateways, anti-fraud specialists, cybersecurity specialists, to sit under one roof and discuss these things. Is the very, I would say, not to say that that's the answer to everything, but it's a great starting point, and it's a great place to actually start having these discussions.
Ansel, thank you very much.
Can I add something to that?
No, perfect. I was going to come to you next anyway. Go for it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. So, from our perspective, looking globally, we're moving from brick and mortar stores to the virtual world, right? And so historically, we knew who we were dealing with when we went in and bought something, and we knew the store would be there tomorrow. We could go back and complain. Today, we don't know who we're dealing with. And so Aegis is a global verification authority, which processes up to 10,000 companies a day for assigning identity signatures. And we believe that the future of both merchants, verified callers, verified senders, verified DCB merchants is about creating identity signatures of who are these people, and that they're trusted so that the carrier's consumers can have a completely trusted experience with who they're dealing with. And so there are a lot of organizations globally that are trying to move to this, like Life, which is managed by the G20. But what we need to do is get behind that to create high volume, low cost identity verification with signatures that are entrusted with technology that allows them to be verified that in fact it hasn't been tampered with, this is who they say they are, all that stuff. And then we need to embed that into the ecosystems that we're looking at, so that every time I go into something, it's like, oh, they've got the seal, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's where we need to go for the future of DCB, to really, get rid of the fraud, optimize the consumer experience, which is really about, but for our customers, the carriers, it's about optimizing their brand experience. And I think that's how you get there.
Fantastic. I think we could talk for 2 hours on this subject, and it's so sad that we're only 7 minutes away from the close. It's like, oh no, there's so much to talk about. But Peter, coming to you now, the weird situation, I think it's frankly quite bizarre when it comes to direct carrier billing, is if I go to a mobile phone shop device and buy a Samsung device, which this is an AM12 or whatever, I buy it, I pay my £145 on using, let's say, a MasterCard, and then I get home a day later, I've got an issue with it. I don't phone MasterCard. and go, hey, I've got an issue with my phone. Unless there's some of them do actually have a guarantee, but I would call the shop I purchased it from. Why is it with DCB that people somehow think that they're purchasing solutions from vendors, but their first port of call with anything wrong is the mobile operator? It's a weird one, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, I think that, you know, from a mobile operator perspective, it's really important that we understand the customer products and we understand, you know, the customer questions, and we are a port of call for anything that happens on our network. So you're right, contractually, if you look at the bare contracts of it and you're on the Spotify page and you buy Spotify, then you as a consumer, the contract is between Spotify and the customer. It's not between BT and the customer. But we are the payment method. So we have got to secure our brand. We've got to secure that people are happy. The customer experience is paramount to us. And so we put a lot of work into that mechanism. So if somebody does, we do encourage people to ring merchants directly, but if they do ring us, you know, we've got all the contact details of the merchant, we've got information about the product, so we can advise the customer on what to do. And I think that is a key part actually of our success with DCB is managing that customer experience, managing correctly if they ring us or if they write to us or however they contact us. But I think it is an educational piece, as I said, but we do have that responsibility to make sure the customer is happy, and we will do everything that we can to ensure that.
Yeah, thank you. No, because you're in an amazing position. If you look at most mobile operators around the world, those brands are some of the few brands that almost every single person walking the streets knows. So it's, yeah, you're in an amazingly trusted position immediately from your brand perspective. Now, we're 5 minutes away from the close. I'd just like to finish by going around asking people, what are the 3 key things? I appreciate as we go down, probably going to be difficult trying to think of 3. So let's just, you don't need to think of 3, but what are the key things? David, we're going to start with you, that need to be done to truly drive adoption of DCB. Make it very quick, sir, please, because we're running out of time.
Of course. So the main issue is that most important stakeholders are missing clues of what is happening with their payment method. And what they need is data. And by putting the good framework, the good solutions in place, they can gather the right data and understand what is happening and take the right decision. Because what we have seen too much is bad decisions taken without data.
Okay, data. Thank you very much. Ignacio, the same question to yourself.
I mean, customer satisfaction. I mean, we really need to invest in customer satisfaction, in just letting all the ecosystem understand that this is a transparent and super secure mechanism, and that if it goes with the regulation, it means that it's secure a method of payment, and then it will be for sure adopted by all the stakeholders. This is basically, for me, the key topic is that one.
Fantastic. John, yourself.
Yeah, to me, it's kind of jumping on what David said, which is leveraging the data that's generated to improve the consumer experience. So, you know, knowing who the merchants are that are engaging your customers, knowing what products they're delivering to the customers, knowing how those products are performing for the customers, knowing how they're performing for the brand overall, and leveraging that data to turn the portfolio to a better place is the critical approach to the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. Louise, yourself.
For me, it's about competitive flows. We need to be looking at other payment mechanisms, mobile payment mechanisms, and making sure that the user experience is competitive. And that means not putting the onus on the consumer for the security of the product. We need to act like the finance industry and make sure that that security element is built in at the network layer rather than making the consumer do the legwork. Otherwise, we will lose to other payment flows.
True. And Zell, yourself.
Yeah, I think we sort of touched on it as a group earlier when we said, or I believe it was Peter who said that, you know, for many consumers, it's still magic. It's being billed from my phone bill. And I think a good way to address that is, and a good way for starting somewhere for promoting DCB is for merchants and bigger merchants to start offering DCB alongside other payment methods in markets where they're not already using DCB. And for carriers to help us to make that possible. So to go, yes, you can pay for this with your credit card, but have you considered paying for it this way? And in that way, educating consumers in general that it's possible, it's safe, it's convenient. To start offering it alongside other payment methods where possible.
Fantastic, thank you. And Peter.
Yeah, I mean, customer experience is key. But we're actually in business development mode. So we're going out to merchants now. We've got a product that works. We've got a customer base that love it. We're going out searching for new opportunities. That's where we are at the moment.
Fantastic. Just from the regulation perspective, I know we're coming up soon to the close, but I take it all of you or many of you are actively working with regulators. And how easy is it to turn regulation around or to make it in markets where physical goods aren't allowed to be charged to your mobile phone bill to change that situation? That's not something that I understand happens overnight, but is that something that can change within months or a year within markets, or it's longer than that, Peter, from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean,
please go ahead, Peter.
So, no, I was going to say we're always keeping a close eye on regulation, and we want to do everything we can to smooth that path. But at the moment, we've got a product that we can sell. We've got a fantastic opportunity. So we were focused on what we've got.
Perfect. Ignacio, sorry, I couldn't go back to you. We're really running out of time. We're down to our last 20 seconds now. But we could have talked about so much longer. I think I know what we need to do. We need to have another one of these later in the year, just looking at things from different angles and seeing how 2022 actually went. So we can reconvene later in the year. All that remains me to do is to thank all my speakers today: Peter Garside from BT, Louise Ford, hello, Ansel Roberts from Sam Media, David Lotfi from Avina, John Bruner from Aegis Mobile, and of course Ignacio from Digital. Thank you so much for joining me, speakers. Thank you so much for joining me, the audience. And I look forward to seeing many of you at upcoming MEF events and beyond. All the best. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.